Welcome to the CEO Show. This is Sheila Harrison, your host. I am also the publisher of the Houston Business Guide, your access to Houston's top executives. Visit our website, houstonbusinessguide.com. Take a look at what we have to offer. We think we can help you. This morning, my guest is Dick Huiras.
That is correct.
I've been coached on how to say his name, Dick Huiras, with with ICI Connect and with H&A International, two different companies. Why don't you begin with us at the beginning, Dick? Tell us a little bit about your background. I like to hear how entrepreneurs got their start.
Well, my start probably came back when I grew up on a farm in Minnesota. My dad was absolutely an entrepreneur. He had a 2,000-acre farm, and he ran it himself. He managed it. He had visions for it. And he taught me how to do that because his idea that someday I was going to have that farm, I knew that that day would never come.
And when did you make up your mind?
When did I make up my mind? I think when I was in high school. And I decided that I really wanted to go out and see the world, and I wanted to do my own thing just like my dad did. Mm-hmm. But I knew I needed college first, and all my parents wanted me to go to college, so I agreed. I really wasn't even going to go to college. But I wanted to fly all my life. I wanted to be a pilot. And the only way I was going to be a pilot in the military was to have a college education. Yeah. So I went on to do that. I was a fighter pilot in the Air Force. When I got out, I was really going to start my own company, but I was talked into going into the corporate world because my education was undergraduate is in business and psychology, and my graduate studies are in behavioral psychology. So this company lured me away to say, we want you because we need to develop training programs for our leaders. I did that for 10 years. After 10 years, I got to the point where I said, that's it. The company I was working for was sold, and I left that company at that time and was going to go work for another firm. I had told them my wife and I are going to take a trip to Europe for a month. When I come back, I'll start working again. When I got back, the position had been frozen. My wife worked for a company, and she said, listen, we have a client in Austin that needs your help in leadership training. Would you go up and help them while you're looking for another job? In 1 month, I decided entrepreneurism for me, that was back in 1980, and that's when I started H&A International, and I have never looked back since. Going
out as a consultant and helping different companies rather than just being an employee of one company.
That is correct.
Turned you on. It made you excited.
That turned me on. That said what I wanted. Entrepreneurs tend to be people who don't like other people to tell them what to do that don't know what they're doing. And that happens many times in the corporate world, not all over, but we view it that way. Entrepreneurs view it that way. And I really wanted to do my own thing and be responsible for what I was doing. And I figured, why not? Yeah. It was scary, but why not? And it started in 1980, and we're still going.
Well, congratulations, and that's H&A International.
That's H&A International, correct.
Wonderful. So what kind of clients did you work for, and what kind of success stories could you give us for some people that you've helped?
Well, one of the clients, when I was in the corporate world, I worked for a company that owned and operated hospitals across the United States. So I was real familiar with the patient care facility type things. The very first client happened to be a hospital. And the director of food service was ready to quit.
Oh, my.
The director of marketing was ready to quit. There were 5 people who were ready to quit that organization and walk out on it because management didn't understand how to communicate and deal with their people. So they wanted to come in and teach.
So let me make sure I understand this. This company had disgruntled employees to the point where there was just about to be a mutiny on board and everybody leave the ship because the corporate management of these people didn't know how to communicate, connect with them in a way that they would be part of a team to get the job done.
Absolutely.
Okay.
When I went in there, management told me, they said, Dick, we have a problem with at least 5 of our directors. Now, having been in that business for a long time, it was real obvious to me that that wasn't the problem. But I couldn't tell them that. So I said, well, listen, I would like to start with the senior level managers of this company first, and I want to show them what we're doing with the 5 directors.
You are tricky.
So what I'm doing is I'm training and getting them to become self-aware. That it starts at the top before it works its way down. In less than 3 months, now these 5 people had their resignation letters in their desks.
Wow.
Within 3 months, all 5 of them tore up their resignation letters. And what really was a success indicator for me is the administrator of the hospital, who is the #1 person who makes the decisions, who makes things happen or not happen, called me in his office and sat me down, and he looked at me and he said, I want to tell you what I feel is the results of your consulting. And I said, what's that? He said that I was the problem, not me, Dick, the administrator. He said, it started here. You were so slick in letting me know that without telling me you're the problem, because I'd have fought you all the way.
Yeah, exactly.
But he said, I realized that it starts here at this desk, and it works itself down. It's either going to be successful or unsuccessful. And I said, well, the proof that you learned that, and the proof that you learned from that, is the 5 people that were going to resign have torn up their resignation letters.
He did not know that.
He did not know that.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you were able to just talk to them and convince them to be part of your analysis by saying they needed to learn it before you took it to the staff to learn.
And I did that by, yes, that's right. And you do that by not showing them, you kind of show them what you're going to do for the people down below to get their buy-in. But what I hoped would happen at the same time is while I was showing them and explaining what I was going to do, that they would learn from it at the same time.
Exactly.
It actually was the very first coaching thing I ever did. I coached that leader, and it took me years later to understand that that's what I did.
It just was natural.
I didn't teach him, I coached him.
Yeah.
And it took coaching to get him to buy into what was happening and to understand that it wasn't their fault.
And to become a better communicator.
Much better communicator, connecting with his employees, allowing them to stay connected to him until he was able to influence them.
Oh, that's so important. Yeah.
And what happened is the 5 people gained enough trust in that leader that they said, I'm willing to let you influence me now. And then 99% of the problems disappear.
That's interesting. What was the barrier that was keeping them, that group of directors, from listening and responding positively to him?
Well, they saw him, and I can talk about this even a little bit later in our discussion here, but they saw him, whenever they were around him, they were de-energized. He just de-energized them by the way he talked to them, how he did things. It isn't what they needed from him. The way he spoke to them, how he approached them. There are people in your life that just energize you. You're around them, you enjoy them, you like to be around them, and then there are those other people that they're wonderful people, they're well-educated. It may be your spouse that anytime you get around them 5 minutes of a conversation with them,
they drain you.
You have to go home and go to bed and take a nap. But you never get to the point where you trust them enough to let them influence you. And that's one of the things we had to teach that leader how to do. And once he learned that process, he said it was like magic.
That is great. So harmony back at the hospital.
Oh, absolutely. Harmony at the hospital. Matter of fact, all 5 of those people have retired from that hospital.
Oh, that's amazing. So they never left.
They never left.
That's wonderful. That's a success story.
Yes.
What other companies have you helped in these years with H&A?
Well, we had one gentleman who came to me and said, I was sitting at a luncheon, and he was sitting next to me, and he said, Dick, he says, I'll tell you what, he says, I don't go to these things very often. And I said, oh, okay, why do you do that? He said, well, I just can't leave the office. And I said, what do you mean you can't leave the office? He says, I feel if I leave the office for 15 minutes, the thing's going to implode.
Oh, my word.
I thought, well, how does that make you feel? Not real good. What are you doing about it? Well, I don't know if there's anything I can do or I need to do. I said, well, how are things working so far? Not really well. And he was an entrepreneur. He had about a $5 million company, and he needed to move from being an entrepreneur, which is a manager, which typically uses management as the way to build their company.
Yeah.
He needed to move to a leadership role.
Yeah.
We helped him through that process. His company was ready to die. It's just not if it was going to die, it was when. It was on the, it had flatlined. What I call, when a company flatlines, there's no growth, and your competitors are doing this, and you're doing this.
Yeah, that's dying sign.
Your clients look at the one who's growing and wonder why the one that flatlines isn't growing, and they lose a lot of trust in that. But he needed to be able to back away from his company enough to get a vision of what that company needed to do. So he did that. He managed to understand that it took an investment. If you don't invest in your company, invest time or money, it's not going to be worth it. Mm-hmm. He went out, he had to take out some loans, helped him get a hold of that. He was a $5 million company. His company within 2 years grew to within the $60 million range.
Wow.
And sold it. Sold it for, I don't know, how much is 100? I think he sold it for $100 million. Now, I don't know if the company bought him because they saw the great potential in the company and that the company had a vision, that the leader had a vision, and that they could take up that vision. They either did that or he was so good that they bought him out to get rid of him as competition. I'm not too sure.
Ah, so it was a competitor that bought him.
Mm-hmm. Competitor that bought him, and I think some reason they said this guy is real dangerous out here. We need to buy him out because
before he takes more of our market share. Yeah. That's interesting.
Which is not a bad thing.
Well, that's how a lot of companies grow, by buying up their competition.
Absolutely. They merger.
Well, we're going to take a break right now, and we'll be right back in just a moment.
Attention, if you're uninsured, stop neglecting your family's health because you do not have insurance. There is an affordable solution. Listen very carefully to this vital announcement. Welcome to Prudent Choice. Prudent Choice is a nationwide network of 850,000 premier healthcare providers offering huge discounts of 10 to 60% for doctors, dentists, hospitals, prescription drugs, and other medical needs, all for little more than $1 a day. And because Prudent Choice is not health insurance, there are no deductibles, no waiting period, and you can't be turned down for any reason.
With Prudent Choice, now everybody can afford quality health care.
I saved $4,000 on my medical bills.
If you and your family don't have health insurance, you need Prudent Choice, so you'll never have to pay full price for your medical care again.
Call the number on your screen and get $300 in free health services, plus 2 months free with membership.
What do you know about computers?
My daughter definitely knows how to use a computer better than I do half the time, and she's 3.5.
Hi, I'm John Scher, CEO and founder of Video Professor. You know, I've been hearing comments like that for over 14 years now. Listen to this.
I did the Excel, and it was a lot of fun. I had a real good time. I learned a lot.
The difference? Just an hour with one of my CDs, and they're easy to use. The CD plays like a video on your computer screen. Just follow the step-by-step instruction. If you call now, I'll send you one free. You just pay a small shipping and handling. Now, the reason I'll do this is because I know that once you try my product, you'll come back to us for all your computer learning needs. You know, if you can't learn, I'll even refund your shipping and handling. So, learn a new skill in less than an hour. Try my product.
I think that's the most fun I've had, learning something.